Well, good evening, church. Great to be with you as always. Tonight, we're going to have a really great discussion around a topic that many parents and children are navigating right now, and that is the home learning space, round two. And with me tonight is Claire Ball, who is a primary school teacher, and also Rachel McGregor, who is a child psychologist. Great to see you guys tonight.
Hi.
I want to thank you for your time and your expertise in this area, because as I just mentioned, this is affecting a lot of families right now who are navigating this, and we're into round two. We sort of did some of this last school term, and now we're back here again. So really what we're trying to do tonight is get some really great discussions, some practical tips to really help parents navigate and not just survive this season, but really flourish through this season and really add to the education of our children. And I think we're probably going to target mainly more the younger years tonight and focus more around the primary age. So does that sound good, guys?
Yeah,
Great. Can't wait.
Fantastic. Well, as I've just said, we are still in the middle of a pandemic, and yes, most of our schooling is from home once again. And I think, parents and children alike, I think there are still some children who are worried and maybe even fearful through this pandemic. So, Claire, I might just start with you tonight. Is there some practical things, some tips that you've got for parents to really help ease any sort of worry or fear that their children may be having at this time?
I think if we can help our children be critical learners too is a really good idea. So instead of focusing on the negative numbers that are coming out of how many people have COVID and the death rate and those sorts of things, it's flipping those numbers and actually, saying to our kids, look how many people are surviving this virus. Like, how many people are coming out the other end and are fit and healthy after they've had this virus. So it's actually encouraging your children to look at the information and then look at it in a positive way, instead of looking at it in a kind of a scary way of, that the numbers are increasing each day of how many people have this virus. Flip those numbers. How many people are surviving it? And isn't it great that they're coming out the other end?
Yeah. So really looking at the positives.
Yeah.
In that. That's great. I think we're the same in our household. We've had numerous discussions, even talking around how many conversations we're having around this, how much the news is on in the background, and even subconsciously, I think that might be sort of infiltrating our kids' minds. Rachel, maybe I can ask you, just in the topic of some language, or how should we be actually talking to our kids, and again bringing that positive train of thought into our language?
Yeah, so my comment was going to be that kids are very clever and they're pretty tuned in. Whether we say it or not, they know there's pretty significant things happening in the world, and we don't want to dismiss that either. We don't want to gloss over it entirely, because if we don't want to teach them to sort of mistrust that feeling that they have that something's maybe not quite right in the world right now. So that we need to speak about it in a really age appropriate way. I've discovered there's some really good resources online. So there's resources that are sort of pictorial based diagrams that sort of explain some things that are happening in the world right now, through to more sort of behind the news sort of concepts for those upper primary sort of age levels as well. So finding age appropriate kind of ways to discuss the situation with your child is really important. And absolutely right. I think Claire's spot on there, keeping it positive, flipping the focus to and there's also some really good things, strangely, that are coming out of this really strange time. Thinking about our community, thinking about neighbours supporting one another, kindness is coming, in all sorts of ways. So I think that there's important ways we can focus on positive things coming out of this time. But I think the key thing is keeping it age appropriate and giving our kids a chance to ask questions as well, because kids sometimes might not always have the chance to. So maybe just saying, hey, sweetie, do you have any questions about what's going on right now? Can I answer some questions for you?
Yeah. And maybe I'll stay just in that sort of space. If our children are struggling, maybe emotionally, mentally, they might be displaying aspects of behaviour that they wouldn't normally. They might be more upset than normal. They might be moody, etc. I guess what are some things that you could advise parents with, Rachel,
Yeah.
to just to help in that space, emotional space?
Yeah, sure. And I'll just make a quick disclaimer. General advice, obviously. If you have specific concerns, you should be seeking professional help, just saying that up front. But yeah, look, all children are going to be feeling the pinch over this situation, as I alluded to earlier, and they will be affected in different ways. If your child has a history of particular concerns like anxiety, you might find that flaring up a bit more at the moment. So I guess some things you'd be wanting to pay attention to that are maybe more significant are things like withdrawing more from the family, more teary, more easily upset. Really poor motivation might be one, or the opposite, really hyped up, agitated might be some behaviours you might see. Being fixated about schoolwork, maybe anxious about the schoolwork, difficulty sleeping, there's things like that. So these are sort of the things that you might be looking at as red flags that your child's maybe not doing too well. And if so, I think the first point of call is to actually go spend some time with your child and taking some time to assess, is there something that you can help them with, like I alluded to earlier, maybe asking them some questions. These are signs. These are stressful times and our kids will be feeling the stress. If they're young, some really practical things, I guess, is keeping the structure of the day as much as possible and putting, positive things in your day as well as a general kind of way to support their mental health. Extra special attention, more hugs, more squeezes, more music, keeping the environment in your home really peaceful. Prayer is a really big part of that. If you're a Christian family, worship music, kids worship music. There's some really great ways you can support general health, mental health. Exercise has been proven to be super important for all ages with any kind of mental stress that we are going through, going for a walk, going for a bike ride every day. Again, like I said earlier, if you have specific concerns and some of those behaviours I just mentioned, you go, yeah, my child's explained that, I'm actually quite concerned, then go see your child's school counsellor or call them. Or another point of contact might be your GP as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I know, our kids are only at the toddler stage at the moment, but I know for them very much what you just said, routine. You just need some really solid routine that has those positive aspects for the day, and obviously that can help them flourish.
Can I just add one more thing as well? Children feed off their parents as well. So yeah. So I think that's being conscious of ourselves as well and making sure we have access to supports for ourselves as parents.
Yeah. We want to talk about home learning from obviously the kids learning at home, and Claire, maybe I can ask you. We're obviously in round 2, as we've said earlier, and this can still be quite a stressful environment for parents to have to navigate schoolwork on top of potentially themselves working from home or whatever the situation is. In people I've spoken to in the last week, I feel, and I could be wrong, I'm only one person there seems to be more people who they feel a bit more secure, I suppose, because they've sort of done it for a little while. But there might be some people who are still quite, stressed by the whole process. So I guess what are some practical things that parents can do each day just to make this a little bit easier on themselves and also on their children?
Yeah, I think if the parents can be really organised themselves, then that's really going to help the kids feel settled and prepared and ready to learn themselves. So if the parents are receiving a daily planner from their teacher or some sort of notification of what the child has to learn that particular day, if the parent has read through that and really has a good understanding of what the child has to cover that day, that's really helpful. Having a space in the house where the child knows that's where they're going to do their learning every day, and having all their resources organised so that each time the child sits down, they're ready to learn. Like they've got all their glue, their scissors, their paper, their pencils, all those sorts of things ready, on the go, ready to go. And then pack it up so that they know that their learning time has finished. It's the end of the day or the end of the session, however your school is operating, so that they know that it's back to home and it's back to the normal routine of whatever home life is like after school has finished. So they're not sitting there feeling swamped by their schoolwork all day right into the evening. So you really have a schedule, know what it is that you have to get through that day. And if you're working from home, as many parents are, like there's usually a dad or a mum or both working from home, work out what it is that your child can accomplish by themselves. So you could sort of say, okay, I know you can do this work, and I know you can do this work without my assistance. So you get that done, and then you can go off. The parents can go off, make their phone calls, send their emails, do their Zooms, whatever they need to do. And then they can come back and say, well, I now have, 40 minutes that I can sit with you, and we can work through the tougher stuff that you might need a little bit more assistance with. Same with if mum's at home and she's got a little one, it might be between feeds or between sleeps or something. Work out what it is that your child can do without you, and that your child can do that your child will need your assistance. You get this done, I'm going to go hang out a load of washing, I'll come back, that sort of thing. You just need that sort of, it needs to become a new routine really in the household.
Yeah. That's absolutely fantastic advice. I like the fact that you're saying, make sure you pack everything up at the end of the day. So you're not sitting down as a family for dinner at night, and then right next to you've still got your maths book still open or something. That's great.
That's right, because it's not like that. That's not like what you would have during
That's right.
normal school day. So
yeah,
you really need to, so the child knows it's finished. I can relax. I can enjoy mum and dad as a family, and then face the next lot of schooling the following day afresh. Yeah.
So Claire, let me ask you this then: if the teacher will set the work for either the day or for the week, if the parents don't understand something, they're not really sure what the teacher's asking in the questions, etc. What's some advice around that in terms of your communication with the school?
I think the best protocol is to contact your teacher, the child's teacher, and say, just an email is probably the easiest way. I probably get about 50 emails a night at the moment from parents, sort of going, oh, what's this or what's that? Or if it's not from the parents, I do teach grade 5, so it will be from the students themselves. What do I do here? What do I do that? So definitely email your child's teacher. But if you don't want to go down that track, let Google be your friend because you can Google just about anything. You don't know how to do some sort of maths problem, then Google it. And YouTube have some great resources where people have gone on and actually filmed themselves teaching how to do this or how to do that. There's some great maths resources out there. So Google and YouTube, but yeah, obviously your teacher should be the first port of call because they know exactly what it is that your child should be learning at this particular time.
I was going to say, Claire, it's actually, as a parent, getting across the curriculum is quite tricky, isn't it? In terms of the parent, we're having to learn that curriculum and understand what our child's current level is in that area and then go from there. So just an observation it's a lot to take in for a parent, definitely.
Yeah, it really is. And I think, as a teacher, putting together the plan, whether a teacher's doing it weekly or nightly, it's putting it into lingo that a parent is going to understand, because we all have, in different organisations, we all have our own lingo, the way we talk, don't we? And it's like you, Rachel, putting something together, you'd put on your psychology lingo, and I'd probably read it and go, what does she actually mean by this? So it's actually really trying to put it in wording so that you're not making anyone feel silly, but also trying to get across the concepts that you're wanting that child to learn at this particular time. Yeah.
Growing up with both my parents being teachers, I'm still astounded at how many acronyms teachers have. You've got an acronym for absolutely everything in the education world. It's crazy.
We do.
I'm sure you guys are going to have a conversation with other teachers, literally just using acronyms. No one else. It's like this secret language you've got.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Right.
Hey, maybe I can ask you both. There'll be many people who have children in different year levels. So you might have a younger, an older, you might have one. Let's just look at you for a sec, Rach, where you've got literally newborn. Yeah, you got 4 boys all the way up into school age. So again, what are Rach or Claire? What are some practical things that you can just help people with? How do we navigate when you've got a newborn right up to school age, or you might have a couple of children in different age groups, different classes at school? Have you guys got any thoughts around how we can navigate that?
I can definitely speak from having a baby, a preschooler, and 2 in primary. The hardest ones are the preschoolers. They're hard. They're tricky, those 3 and 4-year-olds, because they need a fair bit of stimulation. And there's mummy busy teaching maths graphs. That's not fun. So look, I think if you are organised to get your older students ready, if you have younger children, get them ready, get them set up, get something ready for the 3 and 4-year-old as well. Get them their snack, get them their Play-Doh. We have it now a drawer of things we've got a sticker book, we've got Play-Doh, we've got the setup of the activities for him to do. He sits down, does his work as well, even if it's just making a Play-Doh cake. And so he does his work as well. And so it's really important to have them. The babies are easy, he just sits in the high chair and I think it's about being organised for the younger ones, having something for them to do. I was going to make a quick comment as well in terms of stretching yourself across if you've got children as well, and if you're working as well, it can be very, very hard mentally as well, where you can put aside distractions, and that means turning off your phone, turning off distractions, emails, just to sit and focus with your student for that particular task. I find that multitasking is stressful for the brain. If you can, particularly around these sort of higher mental stuff, so if you can focus on that child that particularly needs your time and telling the others, look, I just need to focus on this one, can you please just, and for me, that's what I do.
I think too, if you've got sort of middle primary to upper primary, they can help each other out. I know I've got a few students in my own class, and they've been telling me how they have been able to help out their sibling who's in grade 2 or in grade 1. So it's great that way too, and that's really lovely that these siblings are coming together and helping each other out. So older siblings can listen to the younger siblings read, those sorts of things. And a lot of us are getting used to using devices and technology. You can FaceTime grandma and granddad and get the little ones to read their reader to grandma and granddad over FaceTime or Zoom, whatever grandma and granddad are able to use. But there's and writing too, get them writing to their grandparents as well. Send some snail mail instead of just emailing and those sorts of things. So there's things you can try to get family members involved to help out at this time as well.
Let's just say there's you've got a child who might be struggling with this online learning experience, and they're unmotivated, they're falling behind, they're almost resisting the schoolwork. Maybe Rachel, from a psychology perspective, is there any advice, I suppose, you could help parents with if one of their children are really just battling through this season?
Absolutely. This has actually become, I think, quite a common experience. There are some parents who are just tearing their hair out with kids who aren't motivated at all. This mode of learning doesn't always suit all children in terms of, it's hard for all of us, isn't it, to suddenly change the way we've done learning. And I think in terms of managing our expectations, I would just say this, that, in terms of attention and concentration, sometimes we have too high expectations, particularly of little ones. In terms of focused attention, with a child that's maybe prep or grade 1, we're talking maybe 5-10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes of actual focused attention at any one time. Then they're going to put their pencil down. They're going to look at what the dog's doing, what's the sister doing, and that's actually okay, because this is how our brains actually work. So I think in terms of how we first of all assess what's going on, it's actually is maybe managing our own expectations around our child's ability to attend, particularly with the younger ones. As they get older, they should be able to work, upper primary should be able to work solidly for 45 minutes. You'd hope so, that's a goal. And then they need a bit of a break. If they're struggling with that and you're thinking, oh, for goodness sake, just get this task done, this is probably the point at which you need to sit with them and prompt them a little bit through whatever they're doing to get them back on track. But I think, in terms of managing attention, remembering that young children their actual ability for focused attention is actually harder. It's harder for them to attend for that length of time. I mentioned before, reducing distractions in the environment is really important. Turning off unnecessary apps and chat boxes on your child's device, that's a really important one. Claire mentioned this at the beginning as well, but perhaps looking at your child's schedule for the day and arranging it so that you can actually put some sort of more interesting things in amongst the slightly more dull tasks for the child. So high and low interest sort of activities, try and intersperse that through their schedule through the day. Plenty of breaks are really important as well. I know some families of young children that are using sort of reward charts and timers as well. So setting a time frame for a piece of work, and if they don't get that work finished in that 10-minute or 15-minute period, that's fine. We stop there and we do something else. If your child has autism or ADHD or something like that, you may want to discuss with your teacher what appropriate expectations perhaps for them in terms of being motivated and completing the work. Yeah. So, Claire, I'm interested to know, do your grade 5 sit for 45 minutes at one time?
I saw you chuckling,
No.
Jen.
No,
She's not agreeing with me.
I thought that was might be a goal to have, but I don't know that any of my grade 5s could sit for 45 minutes and work solidly. But that's, it's a good goal to set, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, when I say focus attention, I mean not having to be like head down the whole time, but able to sit at a task. Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do lots of outside, go for a quick run, come back, that sort of thing. Go bounce a ball, go try and juggle, go do this, go do that. So go grab a drink, all of that sort of thing. Even after 15 or 20 minutes, encouraging them to do that sort of thing. Particularly boys. Boys need to move. You can't have boys just sitting at your table for long periods of time. And I think it's really important at this time too to remember that all children are in the same boat. So you can't be stressed that that your child's going to be behind, because every child is going through this at the moment. So don't sort of be thinking, oh no, my child might have to repeat a year, or they're going to be so far behind in their curriculum. Every child is in the same boat at the moment. So, and the teachers understand that, and we're certainly making sure that the curriculum that we need to cover is being covered, and we'll catch up on all the other bits and pieces when we get back to school.
Yeah, there's so much great advice in there, guys, and I'm just looking at our time. We are coming to the end of our time, but maybe by way of finishing, obviously everything we're saying here is quite practical, but we want to make sure that there's a godly principle, a kingdom principle that goes through all of this practical advice. So maybe I can just ask you, are there any scriptures, verses, anything that I suppose the Lord has laid on your heart that you'd like to just really encourage parents with? Just one I was just thinking of then, literally as you were speaking, Claire, is just the beautiful promise that the Lord will never leave you, He'll never forsake you. Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged. Talks about that in the end of Deuteronomy, I think it's 31. But the Lord is always with you. You're not having to do this by yourself. So I pray that that's an encouragement, that the nearness of God, the closeness of God, when you are having a bad day, you're having a rough patch, whatever's going on, that God is so close. He's right there. He's always ready for you to just reach out and just, hey, help, I need some help here. We need comfort. We need support. We need peace, whatever it is, that God hasn't left you. He's never forsaken you. But what about you guys? Are there any, thoughts, verses, etc.?
Well, it's interesting that you just talked about peace, because one of the ones I was looking at earlier was John 14:27, which also talks about the Lord's peace is with you. The peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you, which is something that I'm constantly saying to my students. May God's peace be with you at this moment when we do our devotion. So that's a really, it's a good verse for this time.
Yeah, I was going to say the word peace as well comes to mind. Absolutely, Claire. I get that peace it seems to be the word for the season, isn't it? And joy as well, that we can have joy in the season and joy in this season with our kids learning in this environment. And it's tricky and it's hard and it's a juggle, but there can be joy in the crazy as well. And that's how the Lord works. But also the scripture that I had was also around the concept of help. So Psalm 121, I lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. So it's okay to pray prayers of God, help me right now. I certainly have during this pandemic, just God, help me through this day, help me through this moment. And moment by moment, he will supply everything that we need. So yeah, let that be a promise for us as parents. Yeah. And yeah, teachers.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you guys have, even highlighted a couple of the fruits of the Spirit, which is beautiful. Galatians 5 talks about that. You said, joy, peace. Obviously, there's love, patience. We need patience. We need kindness. We need gentleness right now. We need self-control. And, we are people who live by the fruit of the Spirit. So, yeah. Can I just, we do have to wrap up, but I just want to thank you guys so much again for your time, for your expertise. And I do know that there will be a number of families, a number of parents who've already watched this through, but you need to go back and watch it again. And this time, jot down some more notes, because there are some absolute gems laced with gold right through that conversation. So thank you, Claire. Thank you, Rachel, for really just investing into so many households through our church. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah.
All right, church. Well, I hope that was a real blessing to you. I know it was. And look forward to seeing you all again soon. Be blessed.